It's nighttime on the Permian seafloor, but you wouldn't know it. Your small, generic shark is doing its thing, totally unaware that above it, far out of sight, a monstrosity so deadly it's been called Earth's first perfect predator is hunting. Tonight the ocean might be safe, but only until this monster finds you. Welcome to my channel. Now, if you think this intro is dramatic, you haven't met the star of our show. Deep in the warm twilight zone where sunlight struggles to penetrate, your little shark swims past a crab and an ancient trilobite, totally unaware that they're looking at each other like cat and mouse. Because up here, the water's too dark for anything to spot them. So they swim on, passing by what seems like a peaceful seamount. But something's off. There's an unnerving stillness to it. If you swam closer, you'd see that it's covered in a forest of long, sharp, jagged teeth. Thousands upon thousands of serrated steak knife teeth. And behind those teeth is the silhouette of a skull as wide as a doorway. A pair of burning yellow eyes staring directly at you. And right before you're about to meet your doom, we fade to black. And now we can finally introduce our star. It's been stalking us since the beginning. And we've given you just enough clues to make you realize how screwed our poor little shark was. But let me be clear, it wasn't just any shark. We're talking about the most ruthless, ingenious, terrifying carnivore that's ever slithered onto land. Say hello to our sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is the best way to learn math, science, and computer science interactively, which means learning by doing, which is my favorite kind of learning. It's so much more fun than just watching lecture videos or reading textbooks. With interactive lessons, you get instant feedback and can work at your own pace. You can also choose exactly what you want to learn, from foundational advanced math to AI and data science. Now, I love space stuff. So one of my favorite courses is all about astrophysics. In this course, you can take an interactive journey through the solar system and beyond, learning everything from orbital mechanics to black holes and the Big Bang Theory. Ranked Brilliant has tons of other courses to choose from. Whether you're interested in programming, AI, math, physics, astronomy, or just want to brush up on your everyday math skills, there's something for everyone. And as always, if you have any questions, you can post them in the discussion forum, and Brilliant experts will be there to guide you. And now, back to our terrifying Gorgonopside. Now you're probably thinking this looks like a combination of a whale and a lion, but actually that's not quite right. Its closest relative is neither. The truth is, these extinct beasts are still such a mystery that scientists are still trying to figure out what exactly they are. That's why we're calling it a Gorgonopsid, or Children of the Gorgon. And we'll get to that name later. First, let's establish how insanely messed up things were when it roamed the Earth, when this predator lived. Europe had sunk beneath the waves, and all of the continents had fused into one massive supercontinent called Pangaea. Now you may have heard that Pangaea was mostly desert. Look, even deserts need some rain every now and then, right? Well, no. See, the moon was 20 times closer to the Earth, meaning tides were huge, wave action was intense, and huge swaths of land were submerged under shallow seas. What's left? High mountain chains and plateaus, places with very little vegetation, and lots of exposed rock. Basically, this was Earth's first real dry spell, which lasted for 70 million years. And this wasn't the Sahara, folks. This was the entire planet. To put it mildly, it sucked. But suckage aside, it was the perfect breeding ground for monster. As mentioned earlier, the moon was uncomfortably close to the Earth. And although it's not the main reason we have giant spiders today, it did cause days to be around 22 hours long, meaning Earth's circadian rhythms were completely different. This would have affected the behavior of animals, making them more active at night. And another fun fact, the moon being so close didn't just increase the length of days, but also the length of years. When the moon got cozy with the Earth around 450 million years ago, a full orbit took only 10 hours. But now, a year passed between orbits. But the main attraction, the big cheese in the Permian hellscape, was the Gorgonopsids. Their name comes from the ancient Greek Medusa, who turned men to stone with just one glance. And the same goes for these beasts. Their hollow sockets were designed to stare down their prey. But unlike Medusa, whose victims died by being touched by her, the Gorgonopsids killed you with their teeth. These guys hunted using ambush tactics. They'd hide amongst the rocks, wait for a meal to wander by, and slash its throat open with those massive serrated teeth. Then they'd stand back and watch as their victims bled out. Now, they didn't just pick off lone targets, but they could pack hunt. Imagine a pride of lions working together to bring down a zebra. Now turn the zebras into armored tanks, and the lions into creatures that are part whale, part lion, and you start to get an idea of just how insane this was. They were called Scutosaurus. They were herbivorous dinosaurs. Think of them as their early equivalent to Ankylosaurus. Imagine being stalked by a T-Rex and Ankylosaurus. That's kind of what happened here. In fact, that comparison isn't too far off. Inostrancevia was literally bigger than a polar bear, stronger than a T-Rex's bite, and it looked like a lion. Yep, you heard that right. It was called a saber-toothed lion for a reason. And it was one of the largest species of gorgonopsid, reaching lengths of over 10 feet. It weighed as much as a walrus, and could run as fast as a tiger. Some scientists even think that they hunted by leaping on their prey and slashing at them with those razor-sharp teeth. It wasn't just their strength that made them masters of the hunt, though. Like we said, they were also very, very smart. They had the brain capacity of a modern elephant and hunted cooperatively in packs like wolves. But with all that power, they weren't immortal. At the end of the Permian period, Earth exploded. Volcanoes known as the Siberian Traps unleashed hell on the planet, spewing 3 million cubic kilometers of ash and lava, an amount that's 3 times larger than the total volume of Mount Vesuvius. Lava fountains reached heights of 300 meters, and the lava spilled across East Asia and into the Arctic Ocean. The event drastically changed the Earth's climate. Global temperatures shot up as high as 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Oceans boiled, and the oxygen in the atmosphere plummeted. So even the toughest creatures on the planet had a hard time surviving, and the gorgonopsids were among the casualties. Inostrancevia was born around 260 million years ago, during the height of the Great Dying, the worst mass extinction event in Earth's history. In less than a century, 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates went extinct. Only the hardiest bacteria, fungi, and a few single-celled organisms survived. But perhaps the most ironic thing about the Great Dying is that it was caused by the ancestors of today's forests. 300 million years ago, plants spread across the planet, growing into vast, thick canopies that blanketed the landscape. As they grew, they absorbed carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But once they started dying, all that carbon stored inside them came back out, kicking off a runaway greenhouse effect that baked the Earth for millions of years. It's a crazy thought that the trees that gave us oxygen are the very same ones responsible for ending the reign of the gorgonopsids. Of course, life eventually bounced back. After 20 million years, mammals returned to the land, birds took to the skies, and new forests flourished. Eventually, life returned to normal, or as normal as it ever gets. The gorgonopsids never came back. All that is left of them are fossils and the occasional skull fragment, like the one found in the barren Badlands of South Africa in 1947. Studying them helps us better understand the evolution of whales, which makes us wonder if a new volcanic eruption happens again. Will we be the Inostrancevia to some unknown monster's little shark? You want to know something scary? This gorgonopsid was only the tip of the iceberg. The Permian period was home to the weirdest, scariest beasts that have ever lived, and they're all coming to my channel soon, so stay tuned if you dare. And now for our final story. One evening in prehistoric Africa, a majestic lion wakes up from his slumber and shakes his mane. He gazes out over his kingdom as the sun sets over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He yawns, stretching out his powerful limbs, ready to face another day in the savannah. But as he does, his features seem to shift, his muzzle elongating, his eyes sinking deeper into his skull. The majestic lion becomes something else, something far more sinister and terrifying. It's a gorgonopsid, the embodiment of the nightmares that stalk the darkness, a reminder that even in the heart of beauty, there is always a lurking terror.